Coming to you live from the palatial studios of PBJ Productions. Welcome to Patrick and BJ Talk Real Estate, where we talk about life, the universe, and everything as it relates to real estate. Hey everybody, it's BJ.
And Patrick.
And we're back talking all things real estate. And lo and behold, just when we thought that the government had done all of its maneuvering
for the housing market.
To qualify for the housing market, because what did we just see? We talked about it here, the foreign buyers ban.
Oh yeah, extended till 2027.
Right.
Yeah.
So just when we thought that it was all done, now this is provincial, this one, so it's not the federal government. The provincial government rolls out, what are they calling it? It's a flipping tax?
Yes, I think it's part of the BC Builds program.
Okay.
Right.
And they're calling it a flipping tax.
Or anti-flipping.
Or it's being colloquialized. Let me put it this way. Whatever else it's called, it's colloquialized right now as the flipping tax.
It's the flipping tax. Welcome to BC.
Yeah.
If you want to flip homes here, it's going to delay you or add an additional cost of 20% on selling, I guess, from your purchase price to your sale price.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I guess my first question is this not an infringement on property rights?
It feels, I don't know, that's a tough question. That's a good lawyer question for me, right? Because our private property rights have been pretty trampled on, even people bought short-term rentals that were allowed to do short-term rentals. Yeah. And the government takes away that pre-existing allowable use,
yes,
all of a sudden, and taking it away.
And to clarify, that also is provincial. So if you might be in other parts of Canada and say, what are you talking about? That's a provincial legislation that was introduced here. The federal legislation with Airbnb or short-term rentals is that you can no longer write off the expenses.
Right, because that's the lever they can control is Revenue Canada. Yeah. That's a whole different idea.
Right.
Is it trampling private property rights? Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't know enough to say, oh yeah, that's clearly is or clearly isn't for me. Yeah.
But so I just think of this in context of my first home purchase. So it was a little condo, got it at a great price, and it appreciated. So we sold it to upgrade and buy something else. But we did it within 2 years. So in this context, I would be paying a tax on that profit, which was what allowed me to buy a bigger home instead of a condo.
Right. Which still, so there are exemptions for, there are some exemptions if there's not an emergency, but some sort of outside thing that you couldn't control. Like if it's a divorce, a death, something like that. But it doesn't say you want to upgrade your house just because, right? So it doesn't include what your scenario is. Yeah. What if the market appreciated? What if you got your promotion? Maybe if you moved out of province, maybe there's an exemption. But that's probably on a case by case basis.
Yeah.
But if you're staying in the same town and you won the lottos, maybe you don't care if you won the lottery, a significant amount that you'll just pay the tax.
Right.
But if you came into some money and decided to upgrade, well, it might make you think twice. I'm going to pay 20% on my gains. Is it worth it or not worth it?
Sure.
Before trying to move up in the real estate market.
Yeah. So to clarify then, if for under a year, is that right? It's a year or less is 20%.
A year or less is 20%, yes.
And then it goes on a sliding scale to 10% at 2 years?
No, it goes to zero at 2 years.
Okay.
So a sliding scale from 20% after your 12th month down to zero in the next 12 months. However they do that exactly, well, we'll let the lawyers calculate that.
Okay. So I don't think, again, the issue is lack of supply.
Oh, we're talking about market affordability.
That's what's driving it's a supply and demand issue where you don't have as much supply as the demand, and so the price is going to go up accordingly. And of course, the other part is, we've talked about this as well, is you have the cost of construction. Before we even get to the materials, because the materials have gone up considerably, you have the navigation of the bureaucracy and all the submissions and all that process that the municipality is going to require.
And they've recently, it seems like all of them have increased their fees, not just by 10%, 12%. Like, let's stay with inflation. Like, they doubled their costs for permitting and such.
Right.
So, we'll say this. We'll probably keep saying this. We're pretty apolitical.
Yep.
On this program, we have our own personal views, maybe. But if it's a housing policy issue, I don't care who it's coming from. If it's not working, we're going to talk about it. We're going to criticize it. But the municipalities, almost among the major ones, let's say, they'll talk about affordable housing, and out of this corner of the mouth and outside the other corner of their mouth, they're increasing the fees and property taxes. So, do they really believe in what they're saying?
Sure.
I understand a balance for the budget for the city.
Yeah.
But this is don't say one thing and then do another.
Yeah, and you're talking about also the time required to get these things done. I keep going back to the place down at the harbor. $1 million,
On
10 years.
Wharf Street, yeah.
Yeah, $1 million in 10 years before they got anything done, approvals.
Yeah, without approval.
Right.
Yeah.
Haven't even broken ground yet. $1 million in 10 years.
Yeah, and maybe there's probably a good handful of examples, like the Roundhouse, same
Sure.
thing, that went on for more than 10 years. I don't know what the cost is, and I don't even know if it's approved yet. But there's plenty of examples. That doesn't mean everything. The average for Victoria is something like three or 4 years to get a project approved. But that's still ridiculously long.
Yeah.
When Langford can get it done in 10 months.
Sure.
8 months to get something rezoned.
Sure.
So why is it incredibly longer in other municipalities? So.
Sure. So I guess the intent of this legislation is that you then are not going to buy a property and profit from renovating that property, or profit less from renovating that property and selling it.
Yeah. So that's interesting, right? So will it prevent people from flipping houses? Well, it might. What it might prevent is people putting their homes on the market sooner to add supply to the market. Mm-hmm. Our friend Brendan Ogmanson, he's the chief economist from British Columbia Real Estate Association, so BCREA. He was saying it might account, depending on the market, somewhere between 2 and 3% of the entire volume in the market. So there might be 2 or 3% less inventory to choose from.
Sure.
And what are we crying about? We don't have enough supply.
Yeah.
And we can't build it fast enough because everything takes so long, and we only have so many tradespeople and material and everything to fulfill that.
Sure.
So it's kind of perpetuating this limited supply. And I've said it before. I'm scream to the skies, right? I'm yelling to the skies we're gonna have to get used to low supply for a long time. I don't think it's going to get fixed overnight, So
yeah.
But there's more to this program as well. There's a clarification when it comes to pre-construction.
Okay.
So a pre-sale, we've done plenty of these. We might write an offer on a property, get an agreement today, and the condo building might not be built, or a house might not be built for 6 months, or a condo building might not be built for 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I just had a client who he just got his keys for his condo that we bought it 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. So what happens is so the clarification is going to be from the date you made the agreement, not the completion date. So you might have been waiting 2 years or 3 years for the completion. Yeah. So once it's completed, you can sell it without this implication.
Okay.
Or this.
So the date of the contract.
This burden.
The date of the contract of the accepted offer, the contract of purchase and sale.
When it's agreed.
Is their date.
So that's the clarification. But that's the only other thing that I've found that's different.
Sure.
But, even if it was a year from, even if it was a year, now you're down to the sliding scale. So will that prevent people to put on their listings
Yeah.
and then prevent supply continuing?
Right. And the other thing I would say is, if that's what you do is the flipping homes, renovating homes, that kind of thing, you're just going to work that 20% into your budget.
I think so.
Right? So you're going to work that into your sale price. You're going to work that into when you do your equations all up front to decide what's the profitability of doing this.
Yeah.
You're just going to figure it all into the big plan.
Yeah. What does that do? That increases the risk for the speculator, the investor, right, in pursuing this idea or this project, right?
Yeah.
Which is fine. That's what they signed on for. It's maybe it's glamorous. I flip houses for a living. Awesome. That's perfect. What it also does is prevent less houses that are beat up, worn, or old that need repair from getting repaired. Or, like our quality of housing goes down if it doesn't receive a renovation or repairs.
Yeah.
So, it has a, unintended consequence, I think. And jumping back to pre-sales, these developers need a certain amount of pre-sales done.
Right, to get their money.
Who do you think is buying the pre-sales a lot of the times?
Oh, investors.
Investors, speculators.
Sure.
How do you think these things get off the ground?
Yeah.
So will that further prevent some of these investors or speculators from finding another place to put their money?
Well, or does that mean instead of them working on existing homes, they're going to go after the pre-construction?
The ones that are dragged out for 3 years
right.
or 2 years.
Just with the understanding that they're putting their money into this thing now for 2 years, not 60 days
if they
or
desire
90
to
days
avoid
or a year
it,
or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And I think the other point that you bring up is just that. Are we saying then, businesses, we're not open for business in BC?
Right, making it more difficult to it's everything. Not only is it our housing policies, our taxes, our like how things are done here, making it more difficult to work with the municipality.
Yeah.
Right? So, it just makes it more difficult to do business in BC.
Yeah.
Right? Are we open to BC or do you want to do business in Alberta?
Yeah, and then
There's different opportunities for those. Maybe that additional tax is acceptable.
Yeah, and again, that's going to become on a case-by-case basis for the individual, the investor, the developer, the builder, whoever's doing what, to decide, okay, if all of this thing goes this way and they take 20%, is this still enough of a margin for me to do this? Very
interesting. We'll see how that all unfolds. I'm not sure if it'll make a lick of difference.
That's going to be my next point.
Except
what is
for
that,
the coffers of BC.
Yeah. So, and what does that do for the market? So now you don't have an investor going in to buy this property to flip it.
Yeah.
You or whoever else is going to come still has to come up with the $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 mortgage or more funds to buy it.
Right. And would that sometimes it's very difficult to sell a house, even if it's a really cheap price. I'm not going to use an example like for price, but the person that's coming in thinking like, oh, my budget is whatever.
Yeah.
And then they see like, oh, buyers tend to overinflate the cost of everything. And then maybe this is a safety mechanism for the buyer. They double the cost of what they think it's going to be. And then they go, well, I can afford this price of a house, but I can't afford this price of a house and repairs. Well, where does the investor come in?
Yeah.
They're the ones that, with the ability or want to, the motivation to take that project on and then bring it back to the market at whatever price that they hope to make money on, right?
Sure. And I guess that's what I'm saying is I don't think it's really going to have that much of an effect on the inventory or on the price.
Yeah. Maybe reduce some of the inventory.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So they're not going to sell, or maybe they're going to hold on to it longer, or maybe they're going to, just rent it.
If the house is in disrepair and would attract, I can understand if somebody wants to move into it and then over time, 2, 3 years, 5 years, they can take on whatever repairs that they want to take on.
Yeah.
I could see that being okay. If somebody handy or has resources,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But it's going to eliminate people that don't have the budget for it or desire for it,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, or the wherewithal to do it.
Yes. So then, and if anybody's lived through a renovation, like in a marriage, it causes a huge amount of stress on that. So, there's a lot of things to think about.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's going to further decrease the value or the saleability of homes that need extensive repair or updates.
It's a good question.
While properties that have been renovated will hold their value,
Yeah.
or new homes will hold their value
Sure.
better.
It's a valid question. I don't know that we have. I know what I think,
Yeah.
but I guess we'll see what
see.
what it looks like when does this the legislation become live?
April 1st.
Okay. So
Oh, no, wait a minute. No, I'm getting mixed up with other policies. 2025, we're in 2024 right now, right?
Yeah.
January 1st, 2025.
okay. So realistically, I think it's going to take a couple of years to see what value this has and what it does. And I don't think you can look at one thing and say, "Oh, look, because of this legislation, look at what happened to the market." I don't think that's the approach. So it's going to take a while to see what this does, if it does anything.
The 2025 date, the January 1st, I think it's retroactive. So if you bought in like August and then you want to sell in like next spring, I think that's how it works. So
Okay.
double check that.
Yeah.
If I didn't misinterpret the way that was spelled out.
Got it.
Okay.
All right. Well, you know what? Thank you for joining us today. If you maybe you have some comments, what do you think about what's being proposed? Because I've heard some people that are for it. I've heard people that are not so for it. But what are your thoughts on this, and what do you guys think? And we're happy to address any other issues that you bring up with it as well. But let us know what you think. And if you haven't, please take a minute and subscribe to the channel. We are putting out multiple episodes. I think we're 3-4 episodes a week. So subscribe so you don't miss anything. And that way you'll get a reminder every time we put something out.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next video.
All right. See ya.